Alrighty, be honest with me here. Who here needs more sleep?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna see everybody's hands.
I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, me too.
I want to go sleep right now.
Me too. It's normal for us to be tired, and it's normal for us to be exhausted, not only with our school semester and preparing for the work of ministry, but I think even more so when we're actually in the ministry field, how exhausting that also will be.
Yeah,
I think it's good preparation with all the nights we're losing sleep right now, whether that be studying sessions or just deep conversations with each other. It is amazing and it is so rewarding, but my gosh, ministry work, I can already tell is going to be so very, very exhausting. And I think that's true for us to acknowledge, especially as we keep going through our fields and keep going and progressing in the journey God has for us. And that I see so many leaders throughout the world and throughout congregations in different places that I'm researching and looking at, that pastors and preachers, ministry workers alike, all fall victim to stress, to overworking themselves, and to burnout. And I think that this can be solved with one simple concept of leading ourselves. And as I think about that, and as I was writing this sermon, it reminded me of a devotional I was reading 2 years ago, with a story that stuck with me for the years to come, and certainly with the couple that was involved in it. So for the devotional, it started out with a young couple in the field of ministry, absolutely on fire. They were working as hard as they could for the Lord, working weekends, working nonstop hours during the week, and pouring everything they had into their ministry. So much so that they began to feel torn, split, and even exhausted from their hard work. And it was good work. They were doing well. So the husband, the wife, they would keep asking themselves, we're doing such great work for the Lord. Why are we so exhausted? Why do we feel torn, and why does it feel like we can't manage ourselves? And these are the exact questions they would bring up to a seasoned pastor that they met for lunch one fateful day. And upon asking this question to the seasoned pastor, as they were just enjoying their lunch, he would sit there, set his fork down, and tell them plainly and clearly, grow up and lead yourself. And this is a phrase that has certainly stuck with me and given me chills as I continue to progress in college and continue to progress in wherever it is that God's called me. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that. And as future ministers, I feel like we can all relate to this young couple. Even in college, we feel like we're being torn between our classes, our social life, where we're supposed to go afterwards. Everything that God is putting on our plate now, and everything that we hope and may not be certain about in the future. Whether that be our jobs that we work, just the classes that we undergo, relationships, friendships, different aspects of college that come through. And I'm brought to the verse of Jesus in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Again, that's Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Where Jesus says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Everybody say, learn from me.
Learn from me.
For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, I want to hit on just 3 key phrases in that phrase, or in that scripture verse. Labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Jesus also says to learn from me and to take his yoke upon us, because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Now, I feel, especially in the field of ministry and as future ministers, we can begin to go victim to overworking ourselves, burnout, and just stretching ourselves and overtaxing ourselves when we should be focusing on leading ourselves well. Because after all, a leader that can't lead themselves is a leader that's leading his congregation and his sheep wrong. And that overflows into so many other aspects in life that can be so damaging. And is doing good work. It's with good intentions and good ambition. But it will be misplaced if we're not taking care of ourselves and learning from this very God we claim to serve. So, the first one is labor and are heavy laden. Again, we take on a lot during the field of ministry. We take a lot as college students. But to those of us that are working, to those of us that are striving to be all that God has called us to be and doing it well, it is important that we come to Jesus. And more importantly, secondly, that we learn from him. And what did Jesus do to lead himself? He would wake up earlier than his disciples, go off and be with his Father alone. Even while he was in his 3 years of ministry, doing nonstop traveling, preaching, performing miracles, resurrecting the dead, he would still take the time and make the time, if he couldn't take it, to go out and be with his Father, even to the point where the night he would be crucified, he would go to the Garden of Gethsemane and pray to his Father. While the rest of his disciples were sleeping, he was vigilant, he was praying, he was leading himself. And finally, Jesus says to take his yoke upon him because his burden is light and his yoke is easy. And as ministers, I'm not saying that the field of ministry should be easy. Definitely not the case. But I am saying if we feel like we're overburdened, if we're picking up weights that he did not give us, it's a problem. Because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. So what are we picking up, even as college students, that we don't need to be? What are the things in our lives that we're allowing to weigh us down when Jesus calls us to lay them down at the cross? And that's what I think leading ourselves is. It's not simply excusing ourselves or maybe even just avoiding things or laying them aside. It's laying them at the feet of the cross and letting God be first and the absolute source of why we do what we do. And in order to lead ourselves well, I think that flows out into the congregation too. Because a pastor, a ministry leader, a worship pastor, whoever it might be, whatever you might be called to do, if you're making time to lead yourselves well by putting God at the center, as Jesus did, I think it's in good hands. And that's it. Thank you.